Behind almost every scientific breakthrough of our time, there is a quiet, invisible supplier. When a new drug is developed, when a genome is sequenced, when a virus is identified in a laboratory or a routine blood test is run, the instruments, the chemicals, and the countless small plastic consumables involved were very likely sold by a single company. It discovers nothing itself and cures no one directly, and yet almost all of modern science quietly depends on it. It is called Thermo Fisher Scientific, and this is a series about the companies that run the world. Thermo Fisher represents one of the oldest and most reliable strategies for making a fortune, being the one who sells the tools. In the great gold rush of the American West, the surest money was made not by the prospectors digging for gold, most of whom failed, but by the merchants who sold them the picks, the shovels, and the pans. Thermo Fisher is, in essence, the great picks and shovels merchant of the modern scientific gold rush. To understand what it actually does, picture any laboratory anywhere in the world. The humble, endless consumables, the test tubes, the pipette tips, the sample vials, the reagents and enzymes, the gloves. A vast share of all of it flows from Thermo Fisher's colossal catalog. But it is not only the humble glassware. It also makes the sophisticated instruments themselves, the analytical machines, the tools that sequence DNA and detect the very faintest traces of a molecule. It is, quite simply, the largest supplier of the physical tools of science that has ever existed. The genius of the business lies in a familiar and beautiful model: razors and blades. Thermo Fisher sells a laboratory an expensive instrument once. But that instrument then requires a perpetual, never-ending stream of specialized chemicals, kits, and disposable parts to keep running, all bought again and again from Thermo Fisher. The machine is the hook. The consumables are the fortune, flowing in steadily, forever. The world glimpsed just how essential this company is during the coronavirus pandemic. As the globe scrambled to test billions of people and to manufacture vaccines at unprecedented speed, it turned out that a great deal of the necessary equipment, the testing chemicals, and the raw materials ran through Thermo Fisher. For a brief, revealing moment, the quiet supplier behind the laboratories became a visible pillar of the entire world's response to a crisis. The scale of the resulting business is immense. Thermo Fisher generates revenue in the tens of billions of dollars a year, standing as one of the largest companies in the entire life sciences industry. But its true reach is better measured not in dollars, but in ubiquity. It lies in the sheer number of the world's laboratories, hospitals, and factories that simply could not function for long without a steady supply of its products. Like several of the giants in this series, Thermo Fisher was assembled rather than simply grown. It is the product of a long and relentless campaign of acquisitions, stitching together dozens of specialized companies into a single, sprawling empire that can supply almost anything a laboratory might need. Its real product, in a sense, is completeness, the ability to be the one-stop shop for the entire complicated toolkit of science. That completeness is the heart of its moat. Because it offers nearly everything, laboratories find it simplest to standardize on Thermo Fisher, building their workflows, their protocols, and their staff training around its instruments. And once a lab has done that, switching away becomes a nightmare, requiring the revalidation of countless delicate, tightly regulated processes. Combined with the endless pull of the consumables, this makes its customers remarkably and profitably sticky. It is not, of course, entirely alone at the top. Its great rival is another sprawling conglomerate, Danaher, assembled through a similar philosophy of relentless acquisition, along with others like the life science arm of Germany's Merck and Agilent. Between them, this handful of enormous suppliers commands much of the market for the essential tools of research, a quiet oligopoly sitting beneath the entire edifice of science. And that points to a dependency that is rarely discussed but genuinely profound. The pace of human discovery, the development of new medicines, the running of diagnostic tests that guide our care, all of it now rests on a supply chain for scientific tools that is concentrated in remarkably few hands. It is a choke point hidden one layer below the science itself, upstream of nearly every laboratory result the modern world relies on. So we reach the question this series always asks, of what would break if Thermo Fisher vanished? And the answer is, that science itself would stumble. Research projects would stall for want of reagents and parts. Drug development pipelines would slow. Diagnostic laboratories would struggle to run the tests that doctors and patients depend on. The engine of discovery would not stop entirely, but it would sputter badly for want of its fuel and its tools. Which brings us to the uncomfortable question, in a quietly important form. How much of humanity's scientific and medical progress, our collective ability to understand disease and to develop cures, should depend so heavily on the catalog, the supply, and the pricing decisions of a small number of private tool-making conglomerates? We celebrate the scientists. We rarely consider who controls the taps that feed their laboratories. To be fair, and it genuinely deserves saying, what Thermo Fisher provides is a real and enormous service to human progress. By being a single, reliable source for the vast and fiddly toolkit of research, it saves scientists everywhere from the enormous friction of sourcing everything themselves. Its heroic scaling up during the pandemic helped the world respond faster. In a very real way, it accelerates the discoveries it never makes. And that is the deeper lesson of this particular giant. There is a rare and durable kind of power in refusing to bet on any single discovery, and instead supplying the tools to everyone chasing all of them at once. Thermo Fisher understood that you do not have to find the gold yourself. If you can sell the picks and shovels to every prospector in the entire valley, you will prosper no matter who, if anyone, actually strikes it rich. So the next time you read of a stunning new scientific result, a fresh insight into a disease, a clever new therapy, a leap in our understanding of life, remember the invisible supplier standing quietly behind the laboratory bench. There is a very good chance that the humble instruments and chemicals that made that discovery possible came from one enormous company whose name will never appear in the headline, but without which the modern engine of science would grind to a halt.